have a placard there sponsored by so-and-so, but to really reach out. And in this particular network, I'm very glad to see most of whom I have earlier identified, associated, and understood as people who are working for the cause of Antyodaya, today being here, taking care of this corporate, or Indian social responsibility network. So these are people who I have recognized, been inspired by, who have earlier worked in the cause of Antyodaya, and I'm very glad to see them here. And I'm going to really put in a word saying, right people are leading this network, and I'm sure that is therefore going to be a very productive and focused group of activity. And I appreciate them for taking this lead from the front in talking about corporate social responsibility, when, to be fair to the corporates in India, it is just 1 year since this act has been passed. And it is only from April 1st, 2014 that this act has come into play. So for us to talk about it, it's the right time. But for us to think, oh my God, this act has been there, where is anything happening on corporate social responsibility? Is there an accountability? Are large companies? Because particularly sometimes during electoral season, you have a lot of parties and political activists raising questions, which are right, which are legitimate questions, and I don't say they should not, raising questions about, is the corporate sector really reaching out to sections which need help, because it is important that the rich and poor divide is bridged. And therefore, when questions are asked, and I repeat, legitimately asked, you tend to think, after all, there is an act. Has it really played out? After all, there is an act. Has it really given the desired results? And you tend to therefore forget the fact that it's not been very long since this act has come through. And we think it's not really given us the desired results. To be fair, this act has only come into force, I repeat, only from April 2014. 1 full year is not really completed. But I'm sure there's a lot of traction already gained in terms of what companies will have to do towards corporate social responsibility. And it may help us to recall the companies which qualify to become spending on corporate social responsibility are those who have a profit of at least 5 crores or above, or 1,000 crore or above turnover, or at least 500 crores of net worth. So these are very well defined. It is not as if we are speaking in a gray area. And even the heads on which the 2% can be spent in the name of corporate social responsibility are very well defined. I think there are about 11 heads on which companies are given an option to spend their money, so that in a sustainable fashion and in a very clear way, without ambiguity, they know where they can prioritize. And such companies which qualify will also have to have a board. Within the company's board, they'll have a committee, if I know the expression right. The committee, the Corporate Social Responsibility Committee, is the one which is going to sit, which will have at least 3 directors, one who's going to be an independent director, who's going to sit and prioritize based on the 11 items which have been given to them as to which is the area in which they would want to spend and what kind of money would go into it and how are they going to monitor and so on. So under the law, the structure of spending on corporate social responsibility is absolutely well drafted. But with that said, I would think today your agenda of discussion, including social audit, if I'm right. One of the things that you're talking about is social audit. Trying to look at how the companies are spending, I think, is a very, very important aspect. Of course, post 1 year of monitoring, after the law has come into play, the government or the Corporate Affairs Ministry can certainly go back to the companies to say, have you spent, what have you spent on, and so on. But it is only asking for an explanation. We are not going to ask them to say, if you have not spent it, give the money to me, we have to spend it. That's not going to happen. So let's be very clear. So I honestly see today's discussion, particularly the one which is going to aim at social audit, as one very key important player in seeing that the corporate social responsibility funds are being utilized with a certain level of transparency, utilized so that the social audits, wherever, whoever is going to do it in different parts, do get the right inputs so that there is a greater toing and froing or sharing of information as regards corporate social responsibility. The government can only go a certain distance, not further. It is therefore the responsibility of networks such as this to see to that the corporate sector is executing its, let us say, voluntary commitment towards corporate social responsibility. I'll also briefly refer to Mr. Banerjee talking about the volunteers grid and also the pro bono contribution that top executives of corporate sector can do towards ensuring that activities have a human component also. It's not as if the companies have given their 2%, it's forgotten. This angle where companies' top executives and a volunteer network force is maintained, I think is going to be a very, very critical component to executing corporate social responsibility. And if the discussions today can even have a sharing or a churning on what this whole idea is all about which, of course, the ministry has been very happy, as you've rightly referred to. It will be a very serious catalytic force in ensuring that the corporate social responsibility angle is well monitored, with a human dimension executed. So I think if the day's discussions at least briefly touch on this angle, because that's what is going to be a very catalytic force, as I said before, and that would also help us in understanding how we can further on corporate social responsibility. I wouldn't want to take much of your deliberation time, but I'm happy to have been associated with this group, particularly with their commitment for Antyodaya. And I invite a great sense of commitment from the corporate sector towards Prime Minister's call for Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. You've got a list of 11 headings, but you don't need to confine yourselves to that. I'm sure you'll be generous enough to add to the Prime Minister's call for cleaning India, ensuring that sustainable hygiene and sanitary conditions prevail in rural India, in schools, in hospitals, and so on, in public utilities. So with greater participation from the corporate sector, I think the Prime Minister's call can be converted into a reality, and in that I seek all your cooperation. Thank you very much for giving me this chance to talk to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You have given a valuable suggestions, and we hope that this forum will definitely work for this. We have a book which we are going to launch today. I request Vijay ji, please bring that book. महात्मा गांधी ने एक बार कहा था, The earth, the air, the land, and the water are not an inheritance from our forefathers, but on loan from our children. So we have to hand over to them at least as it was handed over to us. So please, स्वच्छ भारत, श्रेष्ठ भारत, उसी की एक कल्पना है. और अभी अंत्योदय की बात हुई तो दीनदयाल उपाध्याय जी ने कहा था कि अंतिम पंक्ति तक पहुंचना हमारा लक्ष्य है. तो मुझे लगता है कि ISRN अंतिम पंक्ति तक अवश्य पहुंचेगा. I request ma'am, please launch the book. तालियों से अगर सभागार में गुंजन हो तो मुझे लगता है बहुत अच्छा अनुभव होता है कि we all are together. हम सब एक हैं. श्रेष्ठ भारत के लिए हम सब एक हैं. चलिए एक बार और जोरदार ताली। ये किताब आपको भी यहाँ पर अवेलेबल होगी, आप सब लोग इस बुक को ले सकते हैं। थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू मैम। A Guide to Corporate Social Responsibility Beyond Funding. It is a very good book and I hope everybody will enjoy it reading and और उसको पढ़ने के पश्चात इसको कैसे इस्तेमाल करना है, that is more important. खाली इसको अपने बुक शेल्फ पे रखना नहीं है। धन्यवाद। इस बुक को बनाने में हमें सहयोग किया है मैडम इंदुमती राव, डॉक्टर इंदुमती राव जी ने, जो कि बहुत अच्छा लिखती भी हैं और बहुत अच्छा इस पे उनकी पकड़ भी है। धन्यवाद। नाउ आई रिक्वेस्ट मिस्टर संजय चतुर्वेदी, को कन्वीनर ISRN, MD डिवाइन इंटरनेशनल फाउंडेशन, प्लीज कम ऑन द डायस एंड सभी डिग्नेटरीज का तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करें। डॉक्टर संजय चतुर्वेदी।
नमस्कार। आदरणीय मैडम निर्मला जी, हमारे ISRN की चेयरपर्सन मैडम ललिता कुमार मंगलम जी, ISRN की कन्वीनर मैडम मल्लिका जी, CII के DG श्री चंद्रजीत बनर्जी जी, हमारे साथी संतोष जी एवं इस पूरे कार्यक्रम की कन्वीनर डॉक्टर शोभा विजेंद्र जी। आज के कार्यक्रम का इस सत्र का समापन सत्र है। मैं हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करना चाहता हूं हमारे भारत सरकार की मंत्री मैडम निर्मला सीतारमण जी का, जिन्होंने इस व्यस्तता के दौर में 2-3 दिन से, जो मुझे जानकारी है कि लगातार महाराष्ट्र के दौरे पर हैं, चुनाव का माहौल है, हरियाणा में जाना है उनको, इसके बावजूद भी उन्होंने समय निकाल के हम लोगों के बीच में आई, हम लोगों का मार्गदर्शन किया, सरकार के पक्ष को हमारे बीच में रखा, ISRN पे हम सारे मित्रों पर भरोसा किया। हम सब लोग बहुत हृदय से उनका आभार व्यक्त करना चाहते हैं और तालियों से उनका एक बार सब लोग स्वागत करते हैं। मैडम ललिता जी, जिनका आभार मैं व्यक्त करना चाहूँगा, जिनका लगातार मार्गदर्शन हम लोगों को मिलता रहता है। आज के इस कार्यक्रम के आयोजन में भी लगातार उनका मार्गदर्शन, स्नेह हम लोगों को प्राप्त होता रहता है और अब तो वो कल से डॉक्टर भी हो गई हैं, तो उसके लिए भी मैं हार्दिक हृदय से बधाई देता हूँ। मैडम मल्लिका जी, हमारी बड़ी बहन, हम लोगों की बड़ी बहन के जैसे हम लोगों को लगातार उनका सानिध्य, स्नेह, प्यार मिलता है। मैं उनको हृदय से धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूँ। CII के DG श्री चंद्रजीत जी हम लोगों के बीच में हैं। अपना महत्वपूर्ण समय उन्होंने हमारे लिए निकाला, हम लोगों पर भरोसा किया, मैं उनका भी हृदय से धन्यवाद व्यक्त करता हूँ। श्री संतोष जी और डॉक्टर शोभा जी, ये दोनों लोग आज के पूरे कार्यक्रम की रीढ़ की तरह हैं और शायद इन लोगों ने ही इस कार्यक्रम को, जैसा कि अभी जानकारी दी कि पहले हम लोगों ने मुंबई में एक बार बैठे थे, फिर बंगलौर में बैठना अपना हुआ था, लेकिन आज के कार्यक्रम के लिए महत्वपूर्ण कड़ी में संतोष जी और डॉक्टर शोभा जी हम लोगों के साथ में हैं। मैं उनका भी हृदय से धन्यवाद व्यक्त करना चाहता हूं। आज के कार्यक्रम का जितना सुंदर संचालन हमको रिसिम जी के माध्यम से मिला है और जितनी शार्ट नोटिस पे वो यहाँ पर आई हैं और हम लोगों को इस पूरे कार्यक्रम का आज सुबह से शाम तक आप लोगों को उनका संचालन के साथ आप लोगों को जानकारियां उनके माध्यम से बहुत सारी प्राप्त होंगी। मैं उनका भी हृदय से धन्यवाद देता हूं रिसिम जी का। यहाँ जितने लोग भी बैठे हैं, मैं उनका ज़्यादातर लोगों को मैं बहुत करीब से जानता हूं और पहचानता भी हूं। सब बहुत अपने क्षेत्र के महत्वपूर्ण लोग हैं और सबका अपना एक महत्वपूर्ण समय है और अपने महत्वपूर्ण समय से सब लोग निकाल के अपना समय यहाँ पर आए हैं, हम लोगों पर भरोसा जताया है, ISRN पे भरोसा जताया है। मैं सभी मित्रों का, बड़े भाइयों का, सभी बहनों का, सबका मैं हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much. We have a session at 11:45. तब तक टी ब्रेक है और हमारे 4 सेशंस होंगे। आई वुड लाइक कि आप लोगों को उसके बारे में जानकारी रहे। कॉर्पोरेट एज व्हीकल फॉर सोशल डेवलपमेंट, ये पहला सत्र होगा, पहला सेशन होगा। सेकंड होगा टुगेदर टुवर्ड्स श्रेष्ठ भारत, ये हमारा सेकंड होगा। और थर्ड होगा चैलेंजेस इन CSR, और फोर्थ होगा CSR इन टूरिज्म। थैंक यू सो मच। थैंक यू मैम। आई होप नेक्स्ट कोई भी बड़ा सा प्रोग्राम होगा, यू विल जॉइन अस। थैंक यू सो मच। Founder CBR Network, Bangalore. Dr. Indumati Rao ji, please come on the dais and take her seat. Please give her a... देखिए, रामदेव जी ने कहा है कि तालियां बजाने से आपके हाथों की एक्सरसाइज होती है, तो I think we should give her a big hand of applause, please. We have a second panelist, Shri Rajan Navani, Head India at 75C11. CII, I'm sorry. Rajan ji, please welcome him. Zordar taaliyon se. Our third panelist, Lieutenant General Rajendra Singh, CEO DLF Foundations. Please give him a big hand. I request Poonam Mittal, please honor Dr. Indumati Rao. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. We have a second panelist, Shri Rajan Navani, Head India at 75 CII. I request Sumit Bhasin ji, please welcome him and give him an honor. Mr. Sumit Bhasin. We have a third panelist, Lieutenant General Rajendra Singh, CEO DLF Foundations. I request Ravinder Sathe ji, please welcome him with memento and flowers. This session aims to bring out the fact that corporates are not only profit-making business entity, but also the huge resource pool in the form of knowledge, manpower, skills, and finances, which has the capability to efficiently transform the picture of India. On corporate end, the nurture a strong corporate culture. Organizations must understand that it has obligations to the society. Before this, we'll start our session. We have a book, A Guide to Corporate Social Responsibility, CSR, Beyond Funding, prepared by SVLN Sharma Anand Sarovar. I request him, please come on the dais, and I request Dr. Malika Nanda, please give him a bouquet. SVLN Sharma Anand Sarovar. Please come on the dais, sir. Okay. Mr. Anand is not here, but उनके एक रिप्रेजेंटेटिव यहाँ पर हैं। हम उनका हार्दिक अभिनंदन और स्वागत करते हैं, जिनकी वजह से आज ये किताब हमारे समक्ष है। Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Now I request Dr. Indumati Rao, please take over the dais. Thank you.
If I can get, huh? It is there, okay. So, Dhanyavad for giving this opportunity. So I was just talking to the excellent person who is speaking in one of the best Hindis I have ever heard. So I congratulate you and I told in my Hindi, मेरा जीवन का लक्ष्य होगा आप जैसा हिंदी बोलो अगले जन्म में. Being from South, my Hindi can never be as good as her Hindi, but it's like, for me, when she speaks, it's like the sounds of Ganga, okay, when it flows. The same kind of melody I get when she speaks Hindi. So that is the power of our languages in India. I would say all our languages have very rich musical rhythm built into that. Dear brothers and sisters, it is a great opportunity and we are really learning a lot. And in this session, we are really looking at what exactly CSR is all about. And like Nirmala ji, very aptly said that it is nothing new to our institutions, which has always been involved in CSR activities directly or indirectly from times immemorial. So because there is something which we have read in our Upanishads, that one part of our income should go to the community. This I read in Taittiriya Upanishad. Then after that we have the Kautilyas, where he talks about how we should be divided. Like one part should go to the self and one part should go to the society. So he talks about this social responsibility of the business community and also talks about how it should be done. So we have a very rich, vast heritage of social responsibility which comes from a very deep-seated social consciousness in our society. So I would like to go through some of the lessons we learned. Bangalore Convention seminar or workshop, we can give any name because there was a lot of chintan and manthan, and there was almost amrita that was generated in the Bangalore workshop. It was a big, lesson which we all learned during this seminar because many of us looked at CSR from one perspective, but in the convention in Bangalore, it really opened multi-dimensional issues concerning the CSR and also the new act. I would like to go through some of the slides with your permission, though I hope you are all able to see. I'm only looking at in this session about the sustainability because the sustainability of CSR initiatives continues to be the main and major challenge in India, before the act and after the act. And even after the act, what we see is just initiating the programs and running the programs as per the Companies Act is really not going to bring the major social changes we all like to see. So it needs a lot more. Unless we build in the sustainability component into CSR, it is very difficult, even with well-planned accounting system, social audits, we name all that, because we are all now using many of these words. with a lot of understanding of those terms, but all that is not going to really bring a major social change, or our vision of seeing a Shrestha Bharat will not happen unless the CSR activities are sustainable or built-in sustainability. Let us see what are the key issues. We had many presentations in CSR in Bangalore workshop, and whether they were from corporates or the government or from civil societies, that is from NGOs, people had only one common issue, that is about CSR, sustainability, because initiating a program, and we are not looking at sustainability only from financial perspective. I must say that it's very important to see sustainability from a larger angle of sustaining the social changes. So that needs a lot more planning into the CSR activities. So it is not just money, because whenever, at least with the NGOs, whenever people talk about sustainability, the only thing comes that to our mind is what happens when the funding ends. I am not talking about only the financial sustainability. How do we really sustain the social changes? Otherwise, we would be raising a lot of hopes in the community and leaving people in high and dry. With the withdrawing the CSR initiatives for various reasons can lead to a lot of problems. But we also have many questions: how long a project should be continued, and how long support should be given when people are going to become self-reliant. These are all some of the issues, because we cannot do rural development for 25 years in the same community and still talk about the same problems of lack of literacy, lack of access to housing, and problems of people with disabilities. So there are many questions that is built into when we talk about sustainability. So of course I would not go into the legal framework, because now you all know, and we also have given a small booklet which gives some basic information about the legal framework. So the companies now need to look at lot more seriously, and also we are talking about volunteering grid that they are going to develop, and also the committees of say CSR activities within the companies. All that would go a long way. So if we can really look at CSR as a long-term relationship building between corporate business houses, civil societies, NGOs, and government. So here we are talking of multiple partners. So sustainability involves now these multiple partners in getting the programs and the social changes, or the changes that is brought in the communities to make it sustainable. We need this multi-stakeholder partnership that should be built into CSR. CSR needs, I'm not saying that we have solutions to all these problems. We are raising many of these issues which we need to think and look at some of the process and the solutions that may emerge, not in one day's seminar, but as a process under ISRN. CSR needs a platform to help business people to develop the knowledge, competencies, and contacts to partner and not-profit organizations in a way that makes substantial impact on societal causes, from poverty alleviation to education to environmental protection. So we are looking at what are the priorities, how they are going to select depends on sustainability. So when the companies chooses the areas, there are different sustainability process that has to be adopted by the companies based on the 11 areas that is given. So we need to go deeper into those issues. What are those sustainability issues within each area? CSR implementation needs networking of business houses, companies for effective implementation of CSR supported inclusive sustainable projects. This is another thing which came out in Bangalore, that even companies need to network among each other in order to develop a sustainable CSR strategy. So no one can work in isolation and seclusion, and the same rule is also applicable to the civil societies and NGOs, that the need for working together. So that is really going to change the way we worked in the past and the way we are going to work in the future, because sustainability comes only by working together through partnerships and networking. And NGOs, Lalita ji said, the moment the word evaluation comes, NGOs get butterflies in the stomach. We don't like that word. So, but when evaluation is built in, when stakeholders' participation is integral part of the project planning, these fears of someone coming and evaluating, that would go away. So the evaluation, it should be self-disciplined, it should be built into the program. So there we are looking at what are the key issues. This would require enabling NGOs for professional management of projects. This is something very important because NGOs, we think from heart, but corporates, you think from head. So there is a need for marriage between heart and head. So we really need to look at how professionalism in NGOs can be really built into the NGOs, whether it is possible, taking into account the larger issues of how well the NGOs can be enabled, especially those who are working in the rural areas. And we are also looking at interface with digital and other technologies for sustainable development and for process development and documentation under CSR programs. We also need to look at issues of strengthening the corporate sector and civil societies. That is one of the major goals of ISRN. How do you really enable both of them to work under partnership? The key issues in sustainability in development projects, it has to be built into the project proposal, and unless it is built into the project proposal, it has to be clear on what is that we are going to sustain, when are we going to sustain, and how we are going to sustain. All these issues should be addressed in the project planning itself, because it cannot come at the end of the project, so it should be built into that. And unless there is a contingency plans in CSR, like if a company cannot continue a project for more than 2 years or 3 years, the civil societies need to plan right from the beginning how the project will be sustained. So it is not just money. I would look at all various aspects, like how withdrawal of funding, it should not affect the quality of the program. This is a very big issue for civil societies. And we also need to look at the long-term CSR support rather than giving it as a one go for 1 year or one event or for one activity. It has to be seen in a holistic way. So that is very important in sustainability issues concerning CSR. So thinking forward, sustainability of CSR projects must be planned by the NGOs. This requires a lot of capacity building and networking, effective project management. The need for a project must come from the primary stakeholders. So this is another major issue. Instead of top-down thinking on which sector we would choose, where we are going to work with, which NGO we would work with, I would say that let us look at the society and see which community needs, CSR-supported activities. What are the priority sectors? So if we keep the community in the driver's seat, and if they can guide the corporate companies, and also NGOs should join hands in that, then we would be able to develop a sustainable project rather than with a top-down approach of deciding about CSR projects either through a committee or a boardroom about which project and which sector. I think that will not ensure the sustainability of CSR. So we really have to go for community-driven CSR programs where community must give a commitment to the corporates and to the NGOs that they are going to sustain it. So that has to be built into the CSR program. That really takes us to a completely different level of partnership with the community, because all these years they have been mere recipient of services. And now we are talking of the community being the active partners and being the driver's seat with the clutch and brake, everything in the community hands. So that needs also a major change in our approach and attitude towards the development projects. So I would like to stop here, and I open now the session for an open discussion. So I welcome all of you to come forward and discuss about these issues. Dhanyavad. I now request Sri Rajan Navani ji to make his presentation.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Mrs. Rao, Lieutenant General Rajinder Singh, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, and as was discussed in the opening session, it's always powerful to be present in a group where the women are taking the lead and actually, kind of creating an ambience that sets the tone for really what the future of this country holds. I'm going to actually start a little quickly by talking a little bit about India at 75, because I think it kind of links into our theme that we have today. So while India was actually celebrating India at 60 in New York, some of us were present there, and visionary management thinker C.K. Prahalad, he was rated as the world's #1 thinker, was talking about why are we talking about what India has achieved in 60 years. Let's talk about what we can achieve in the next 15, that is India at 75. And this is 1997, so we've seen a lot of progress from 1992 to 2007. Sorry, this is 2007. And we said, let's see how we can turbocharge the next 15 years, for India. And at that time, I think corporate India, which was sitting in the audience, kind of took a leadership position and said, you know what, I think we need to galvanize society. We need to really bring different cross-sections of society together and really see if there is an India that we can create over the next 15 years. And that actually gave birth to India at 75. We went out across India, talked to housewives, fisherwomen, students, large cross-section of people to understand what were the aspirations that connected, Indians in 2007 and 2008, just like the need for freedom connected, Indians in the 30s and 40s. And we found that the need for a better livelihood for themselves, the next generation, and need for shelter really were the two main drivers that connected, Indians across the country. It didn't matter where you came from. And that's the time India at 75 actually set up a mission to say, if we can skill an unskilled person or upskill an already skilled person and ensure that there is an affordable home for every Indian by 2022, I think we would have achieved a lot. And, during that process, we did, also meet with the Honorable Prime Minister, and then he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. And I think there was a huge amount of commitment from his side to see how this vision for India can actually, be completed over a period of this time. And we as Corporate India got organized. We have a foundation that is led by, companies that have had a long history of CSR. So besides Mr. Banerjee, who was here this morning, myself, we do have Mr. Cyrus Mistry, who's the chairman of Tata Group, Adi Godrej from the Godrej Group, Mr. Deepak Parekh, amongst others, who have taken the ownership as Corporate India to say that, we will work with society, we will work with NGOs, we will work with government, and become some sort of a convening platform around which we can see and develop a large change for India. The good part is a lot of the activities are led by the younger generation from the corporate houses, and it's a multi-stakeholder group. So we have NGO heads, we have scientists, we have financial experts, etc., who have come together to kind of see how this vision can be articulated. And that kind of brings me to the topic that we have today, is what role can corporates really play in societal development. The question that corporates always used to ask earlier, is the business of business only business, right? I think that was a question that a lot of people in business used to ask, and at a lot of intellectual forums. And then some said, no, it is not. It is beyond just business. And I think the fact that today we are probably amongst the first few countries in the world to have an act that actually talks about the responsibility of a corporate moving beyond just business really talks of something which is there ingrained in our Indian culture, I would think. The thing of giving is ingrained within our Indian culture. It's only not been exploited. It has not really come to the surface. And I think we are at a time today when corporate India and all the other stakeholders really would come together to see how you can participate in helping change a nation and shaping the future of the nation. And with the leader that we have today and so much dynamism, I think the ecosystem is just ripe and right that we are talking this today. So to have an act that allows this to kind of take some form and shape and only grow in strength from here is something I feel will help us a long way as we move ahead. I'm just going to talk of three broad points that I would like to link in terms of corporate's role to societal development, and I'm not going to talk about things that have already been talked. So the one point I think which is very strong is what you rightly said is how do you make this ecosystem sustainable? And I think corporates' participation with a community where they are located probably makes the most sense for any corporate in terms of how they can shape an ecosystem, however small, but around the areas and lives of people that they affect. So I think, and we have seen a lot of examples in India around that in the past. There have been a lot of success stories, and I think corporate India is very clear that that engagement with a community around which you are operating and based seems to be a very clear method by way of which progress can be made aggressively on this. The other challenge in India is definitely that the needs are very local. So sometimes just one corporate actually coming on a platform and trying to shape a community does not work. So, you know, again through India at 75, we have this concept of City Connect, where we have 7 or 8 different corporates come together and then actually tackle an entire community. Maybe it is a city, maybe it is a village, maybe it is one specific aspect of development that is being addressed, but the action actually has to happen at a local level. It has to happen as a synergy of multi-stakeholders coming together and seeing results on the ground. So to me, I think as we see the role of corporates in societal development, I think the linkage with the local community is going to be one very strong way of moving forward. The second aspect that I think corporates understand today is what I would like to call the corporate social opportunity. You know, today with the government and the Prime Minister announcing schemes like Swachh Bharat, affordable housing, I think there is a need and a desire and a requirement for Indian corporates to step up and actually make an opportunity which will actually survive and help businesses sustain over this period. Very nicely put, one would look at it as though it is a business opportunity, but with a very strong social cause. And I think what defines how this will shape up is really the non-negotiables of this process of innovation. Because if we have to provide affordable housing to all, if we have to make sanitation available, we understand that it has to happen at price points that are extremely low, much lower than what it is anywhere in the world. So how do we drive the price performance parameter in such a way that we continue to get better performance at lower price? You know, so these become, I think, non-negotiables within which a lot of innovation in Indian industry can actually happen. And I think, again, that requires a deep collaboration between the different stakeholders, you know, that come together. So I see corporates really coming along to kind of play a very strong role in this development process of the nation, which will actually involve everybody. Because again, another non-negotiable would be social equity. If something does not really engage and involve or, you know, make each person a part of this process, that is not really going to work in the future of India. So I think an emerging economy like India or a country like India, which is on the development path, really has this huge opportunity to innovate and create products, services that can bring large number of people into its gamut. And to me, I really see that as a large social opportunity. And how we actually leverage that over the next few years is going to be something that, you know, India will really be defined by. The third thing I'm going to talk about is about the role of corporate executives and individuals in society in actually making this whole change happen. It was briefly mentioned at the opening session about the opportunity of pro bono. Pro bono really is the skilled volunteers that are there in all of our companies. All of our companies have immense knowledge pools that are there who can actually share a lot of that knowledge and experience with the, you know, the development sector, with NGOs and with others, with government, and actually make this whole process a very vibrant and viable process. India at 75 actually leveraged technology very heavily, and we've created something called a national volunteering grid that will actually match the needs of what is required by an NGO to the skills that exist within corporate India. Not only individual skills, also team skills. And we have done a number of pilots where, you know, 5 experts on, say, sewage management can actually go into a particular city, work with the local administrators, and actually find a solution that can enhance and make the solution far more applicable to that local area. And that can then be shared across, different times. So I feel the whole idea of people committing either time, skills, or money, three very strong assets that each one of us might have in different proportions. I think somebody would be able to give 4 hours of work or 4 hours of time once a week. Somebody else might be able to give 2 hours of their 2 years of their life towards nation development. Somebody might be an expert in a particular skill. Maybe it is, fundraising, which is a big opportunity, lot of large need with various NGOs, and see how they could commit that. Legal skills that people might have, which exist in corporate India, how can those be deployed? And when we talk of money, we're talking small amounts of money. It's the 5 and 10 rupees that make a difference and a change to providing one meal to a person, or actually being able to create a large ecosystem that is mobilized. So if people can actually step forth with very simple ways in which they can participate in this country's change, I think it can make a huge difference. And that's where I think the Indian Social Responsibility Network can play a very large role along. And India at 75, and we are very happy to participate. We believe that the power of the individual to be able to transform a country is hugely immense. And I think that individual could come either from corporate India, it could come from society, it could be anybody sitting here in this room or outside. And if we are able to actually create a structure led by technology that can enable that participation to happen, I think all of us collectively can make a huge difference. So I'm going to stop here. Thank you very much.
I now request Lieutenant General Rajendra Singh to give a national perspective to CSR.
Respected Chairperson, my friend on the dais, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to compliment you, ma'am. Your Hindi is better than mine. And when you talk about Lakshya, Manthan and all, the meanings of some of these words, I do not know, despite the fact that I belong to one of the northern states. So let me compliment you that you don't have to wait for the next birth. You have already attained a lot of proficiency in this language. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about a very important subject. Very important subject because this is one of the path-breaking subject as far as our national destiny is concerned. We are today passing through very defining moments. Defining moments not only in terms of what shape our economy is going to take, but defining moments in the way India is going to shape up tomorrow. How will our country, in the next 20 years, which direction will it take? We are passing through a phase where we can go either way. What will be our place in the community of nations? Where will India be in next 1 or 2 decades? These are the questions which we often ask ourselves. These are debated in various seminars in the think tanks. The answers are not easy to find. But one thing is absolutely certain, that while finding the answers to these questions, the role of one entity is extremely important, and that is the corporates of our country. like my previous speaker mentioned, that we are probably one of the first country to have an act of this kind. We are also, we also have a great tradition of philanthropy from the ancient times. But however, somewhere down the line, this emphasis on philanthropy had gone down, and somewhere materialism had taken its place. People, planet, profit, in that order of priority, seem to have got reversed. Profit, profit, profit. And that seemed to have become the basic motto of the businesses. This is often being discussed and debated, even in your business schools, that the basic job of a business is to make profit. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I will not digress from this. I will only like to put across to you a hypothesis that if you want profit, you will have to be doing this corporate social responsibility. Otherwise, you are doomed to fail. And why I say this is that if we today look at the environment of our country, a couple of things which emerge quite clearly. Firstly, our country is passing through a phase where our economy has had a fairly good innings for last about 10 to 15 years. Our growth rates have been somewhere between 6 to 8%, though of course there has been a dip recently, but this is likely to pick up again. Secondly, we have one of the largest technical manpower in the world. We are third or fourth largest economy of the world. We are IT superpower. We have the kind of a manpower, or our greatest asset seems to be our young average age of our people. With all this, there are some great challenges also which confront us. And these challenges relate to, first and foremost, is the fact that you have, though you have an average age being 28, meaning that half of your population is less than 28, you do not have enough jobs for them. Your divide between rich and poor, which Honorable Minister in the last session mentioned, the divide between rich and poor remains. It not only remains, this has widened. It is not to say that the poor have not progressed, but the rich have progressed more than what the poor have progressed. If rich have grown richer by 10 times, the poor have grown slightly richer by only 2 to 3 times. This divide between rich and poor is going to create certain amount of social turmoils. These are already manifesting itself in a number of directions. And some of them are your growth of extremism, Naxalite movements, Maoists, and discontent amongst the society. This, if not addressed for a big nation like ours, we will tomorrow have a situation in which the law and order will be down in the dumps. And with that kind of a scenario, no new business is going to start. No FDIs are going to come. So this is certainly not going to be good for the businesses. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, it is in our interest to make sure that this social turmoil within the society is not allowed to grow. Like Mr. Rajan mentioned in the last presentation about 2 important facets which they in their study had really homed on to. One is skilling, and second is finding a home. You have to basically ensure that the population, that is the youth of our country, are skilled enough to be able to get a job. This is priority one as far as the nation is concerned. And second is, give him a decent living. Roti, kapda or makan. Roti and kapda he will only get in case he has a good job. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, corporates have a role to play in this. We have today a kitty of about 15 to 20,000 crores, which is actually not very much. But however, we by itself cannot make a major difference. But what we can certainly do is to act as a catalyst. Act as a catalyst to whatever the government is doing. Act as a catalyst to the community and start a people's movement. My own thought on this subject are slightly different to very many who mention about this. Many people feel that the corporates must do their projects in the fields firstly, which are going to enhance their own brand value so that their own profits go up and the others. Many people also feel that the corporates must do most of their projects around their areas where their factories or their areas of operations are. I feel that whereas there is no harm in doing all this, but the prime factor must be that you must do projects in those fields which are of national priorities. National priorities being skilling, national priorities being providing good health care, and some of the things which Prime Minister has mentioned recently. Now, most of the industries where they are located, close to that, the general condition of people is fairly all right. Deep in the interiors of our country is where the problem lies. And therefore, I feel that at least 50% of the concentration of the corporates needs to be where the greater need is. And I feel that we need to concentrate especially on those states where the density of industry and the other corporates operating is not very much. And we need to concentrate there because the need of the people is greater over there. I also feel that unless we do this, we will only increase the divide between the rich and the poor. We will also increase the divide between the Bimaru states and the other states, between the divide between north and south, east and west. Some of our states which are poor today, which are not very good in Human Developmental Index, will continue to remain so. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is extremely important that corporates lend their hand in it. They can only pitch in to make sure that the people are egged on to help themselves. They can only pitch in to ensure that the government also, or the government's efforts in this are supplemented. And I think this will be a great movement. I would like to compliment the organizers of this event, that is Indian Social Responsibility Network, for having organized this event. And their activities, whatever was presented to us, I think need tremendous amount of applause from all of us. I would also like to compliment Mr. Rajan for this great program that they have started. That is India at 75. Well, ladies and gentlemen, not only India at 75, India much earlier needs to grow, and needs to grow at a rate much faster than what it is doing now. I'm not talking of the economic growth. I am talking of the growth as far as HDI is concerned. Today, you are 134 in nations of about 160 or 70. 134 for a nation like ours, which is aspiring to be one of the leaders of the world, which is aspiring for a permanent seat in the Security Council, which is aspiring to be not only a leader of the third world, but a leader of the first world. With these words, ladies and gentlemen, I would once again thank the organizers for having given me this opportunity to be able to share my thoughts with you. Lastly, I would only mention one thing, that corporates have a great role to play. They may not have great amount of money to be able to spend, but what they can certainly do is to churn up the society and contribute with their proficiency and efficiency in a manner that it can energize the complete system of bringing about development in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for giving a totally new perspective into CSR and the issue raised how we can really take up the 134th rank of India in Human Development Index. Sometimes people are not aware the lower ranking is the direct contribution of a majority of people who are most marginalized in the society not having access to the basic needs. That is why the ranking is always going down. So under CSR, it is very important for us to look at most disadvantaged people, like people with disabilities and people who are on streets, senior citizens. You know, there are many groups who are most vulnerable in our society. Ranking going down is one of the reasons. Now the session, it is a open forum, and this national perspective of looking at CSR with the interest of growing the business. In fact, Rajinder Singh ji said, for your own sustainability of corporate sector, you may need to do good CSR. It is another new dimension that has come from the presentation. So I now request for questions for 10 minutes. Please, when you ask the question, please introduce yourself briefly and your question. And if the question is very specific to any one of the speakers, please mention it. Thank you very much. Please, now it is an open forum, so I request for the first question.